couple weeks ago, if you watched the video, we came here to Dan's place to pick up some Mercedes parts that his dad had collected for the past 50 plus years, and you got to see a glimpse of this 300 SEL 4.5. Well, I am going to help Dan get this car running, and it's sitting on the ground, so the first thing we're going to have to do is get it up in the air so we can get it safely on a car hauler. And fortunately, we found the factory emergency blocks in the trunk, so this is going to be a piece of cake. So here's the rear emergency block for the W109 chassis. What it does is it takes the place of the rubber travel stop that's just above the rear axle. So we have to pull this piece out here, and then we take this piece and bolt this in, and the axle sits right here on this cutout in the rubber. So this can't fall out while you're moving the car. Once you remove the tire, you have ready access to that stop. There's two bolts that are holding it up there to the subframe, so we'll get that off, and then we'll be able to put that emergency block in its place. Okay, now let's lower it down and see if the car is going to stay up. It should be resting right on top of that axle. Okay. There you go. That side's done. Now the front's a little bit different. This is the factory rubber stop, and there's a puck that goes on top of this, fits on top of it, and hits the control arm. So we're going to see if those are already installed, because I cannot find those in the trunk. So if you look in there, you can see that the factory rubber stop is really damaged. So I'm going to take the block and try to reach in there and put it right on top. Oh, that's not. Okay, there we go. You can see it's kind of tilted there. I'm going to readjust it, and then we're going to lower it down and see if it'll hold in place. We're going to bring in a flatbed truck to take this out to the shop, so we don't have to have it too high in the air, but high enough that it's not going to bottom out when they load it. Okay, what do you think? Does that look better?
A little bit better.
Yep. Okay. This is a gorgeous example of a W109. The paint on the car is absolutely pristine. It's been about 12 years since the car was out on the road, and I think Dan said it, he started it up about 3 years ago. So I know the first thing I'm going to have to tackle is the fuel system. I'm going to have to get into this tank and probably make sure all the fuel's out of it, and then replace hoses. And I'm looking down in here and I'm seeing some corrosion. So right away, we've got an issue with having to probably drop and clean the tank before we do anything else. Dan did mention the last time he fired it up, he did smell fuel, and he pulled the air filter assembly here, and of course some of those rubber hoses are leaking. So we're going to have to go through the engine compartment, change all the rubber fuel lines, change the fuel filter, change the rubber hoses back at the fuel tank, and I hope that fuel tank doesn't turn out to be a big wrench dance either. Along with the fuel system, I just know that I'm going to have to work on the brakes, and I've had Dan help me check the wheels when we've had these wheels jacked up, and of course look at this one. It's not moving, so we have a frozen left front brake caliper. We're going to have to get this loosened up or we'll never get it on the truck. You know, when resurrecting these old Mercedes have been sitting for 5 to 10 years, it seems like you always got at least 1 or 2 brake calipers that are frozen. It does require pulling the pins and trying to loosen up those pads. Now, once you do that, you do not want to step on the brake pedal again until you remove this caliper. Use the emergency brake when you're moving the car around, because once you free the brakes up, do not hit the brake pedal. The factory stops on this left front, both of them are totally shot. So we're taking pieces of 1-inch plywood and driving them in to provide the height we need.
Pliers to hit the screwdriver with.
Okay. You have to get creative when you're doing this kind of job, right, Dan?
Yeah.
Let me show you why those front emergency blocks got so deformed. You can see they got pretty squished sitting with all that weight on them over the past couple years. It's primarily because the factory rubbers are all shot. So, you know, we're going to have to find new ones of these and get these installed. And these are going to be hard to use in the future because they are quite deformed. But that 1-inch plywood worked really well. I told Dan be sure and get a little air in these tires. That's going to bring it up another inch. So the 4.5 is up in the air. It's high enough that it could get on the flatbed. And in a couple weeks, we'll be bringing it out to the shop. And this baby's going to hit the road again.